in awe of the car. At that time, it was developing certainly more than 400 horsepower, 450, say. And he said Fangio was the first person to get into it and just master it. Drove off 11,500, no problem. Just took it around the track with great elan, and in fact, I saw David Owen earlier today of Livery Owen, and David said, you know, he was there when Fangio drove it. He said it was unbelievable. He just drifted around the corners just as easily and nicely as you like. So he was the first driver really to come to grips with the BRM. The problem, however, was that having, again, after the BRM was becoming the most well-known non-starter in Formula One history, having not come to Turin, which saw Ferraris in the first 6 places, the race organizers for 1952 said, thanks but no thanks. We're going to run our championship races to Formula 2, and Formula 1 it clearly isn't going to be well enough supported. If BRM can't bring a car to this race, we won't run races for Formula 1 anymore. And so the World Championship then in 1952 and 53 was run with Formula 2 cars. And so by not coming to Turin significantly, BRM helped to cause the downfall of the formula for which the car was built. Now, there were, however, a few Formula One races still on the cards, and in the middle of 1952, the cars were rebuilt substantially, more cooling, more ventilation, better positioning of the exhaust pipes, stubbed exhausts in this particular case. And this is the way they looked from July 52 onward, the kind of look that you have in the car that we have here today. In fact, that may be the same car. The engine, of course, as we've seen, is a pretty amazing piece of kit. Radiator header tank, angled in the frame to allow the drive shaft to go past the driver so he could sit extremely low. In fact, one of Fangio's first requests when they said, well, what would you like? You know, any changes you'd like? And he said, well, yes, I'd like to have a little more ventilation in the cockpit. And he said also, I'd like to sit up a little higher. So all the trouble they'd gone to get the driver's position very low, Fangio said, no, I'd like to sit up where I can see what I'm doing. And here he is sitting up where he can see what he's doing. And he drove the BRM on and off in 53. He said it was the most formidable car he ever drove in his career. By that time, the engines were developing in excess of 500 horsepower, touching 600 horsepower from 1.5 liters. Very peaky, just at the top of the curve, but Fangio could keep it up there, and so could other drivers. And also Gonzalez competed in the BRMs in this period through 52 and in 53, but mostly in minor British events. Italy, Snetterton, Goodwood, etc. They had their fair share of successes. At the end of 1952, the original trust said, well, this project has, you know, we've gone as far as we can and should. We can see the formula situation has changed, and we're going to bow out. And they put the assets of BRM up for disposal, and by far the best offer came from the Rubery Owen Group. Alfred Owen had remained loyal to the BRM project, and his companies took over the BRM assets. And, well, this is more or less a parenthetical remark, but he missed the chance at that point to move BRM to the Midlands, to somewhere near where they could have, you know, good technical support. He should have moved it. Instead, he left it at the Maltings at Bourne in Lancashire, which is not exactly the heart and soul of Britain's motoring activity. However, the BRMs in 1953 had some moments of glory, and none greater than at Albi in the south of France, a very fast three-cornered circuit, which ran a race for Formula One cars. And at Albi, they had two heats. They had a heat for Formula 2 cars, one for Formula 1 cars. And this is the start of the heat for Formula 1 cars. And there were three BRMs starting: Wharton, Gonzalez, and Fangio on the left, and on the right, Alberto Ascari and the Works Ferrari. And Ascari said afterward, he said, I had no ability to hear what was going on. My engine, the noise of these BRMs around me, he said it was just impossible to hear anything to judge my start. Nevertheless, Ascari was good at starts, and here he goes. But Fangio dived inside him at the start and proceeded to win the heat for the Formula One cars at Albi in spectacular fashion. And this was the time when BRM kind of showed what the Formula One, original Formula One could have been like if it had continued into 53 as it was originally planned. Of course, not everything went wonderfully at Albi. This incredibly, Ken Wharton escaped unharmed from this crash. They had a lot of tire problems at Albi. That wasn't the direct cause of this crash, but it contributed to it. After that, Tony Rudd from Rolls-Royce had come into the team, and he said, you know, if we're going to run these sprint races, we really should just make a BRM hot rod. We should make a short wheelbase, lightweight BRM, and that was the Mark II. They built two Mark IIs. They used the parts from the car you just saw erected at Albi to build the first of the Mark IIs, and this is Ron Flockhart racing one of the Mark IIs. And they raced with these cars into 54 and 55 while BRM was getting ready to build its own new car for the new Formula One of 2.5 liters unblown. And so they kept at it, you know, kind of keep the team in shape and so on. The cars by that time were running quite reliably, but by that date, the newer cars were starting to catch up. So the expected success, you know, or hope for success from the Mark IIs didn't really eventuate. But that was the last races for these cars were sort of toward the latter part of 1955, and one of the last drivers was Peter Collins, who of course had a future ahead of him at that time, and he showed his skill. And again, in David Owen's view, he was the only other driver who really showed the BRM to its best advantage. Very difficult to drive because of this centrifugal supercharger and a very, very peaky power curve. I'd just like to end by again presenting Raymond Mays. Raymond Mays was nominated as a driver several times for the BRM during its career. In fact, when they were in driver trouble at Monza for the Italian Grand Prix in '51, the organizer said, Raymond, why don't you drive the car? You know, so but he said, my fitness may not be up to it. So he never had a chance to race it. He drove it, he demonstrated it, but in his extraordinary courage and initiative, he managed to create something quite extraordinary. And of course, BRM went on to win races in the late 50s and to win a world championship in 1962, and you know, to carve a very, very substantial place in Britain's motor racing history. And that's the conclusion of that. And I think we ought to really sign off with another little bit of sound if we can. It would be really nice to do that. Just give a sense of the sound of these cars was literally one of the big attractions. People couldn't get over it. This was a big, big factor in giving the BRM the longevity that it had, in spite of, as you've seen, some pretty difficult early years.